If you love stories of overcoming revenge and twists and turns that life throws at you, then this channel is for you. Here, each story will keep you hooked from beginning to end. So subscribe, activate the bell, leave your like and come with me, because today's story is simply unmissable. Helena had always been a strong, determined woman, full of life. Married for over 15 years to Marcelo, she believed she had built a solid family based on love, partnership and respect. But life has a cruel way of surprising us, especially when we least expect it. It all started subtly. Marcelo no longer looked at her the same way. The conversations that used to be long and full of affection were now brief, cold and filled with impatience. Deep down, Helena felt it. Something was terribly wrong. She tried to fool herself, telling herself it was just a phase, that work was stressing him out. But deep inside, her intuition screamed, and the worst was yet to come. Helena started feeling strange. Constant pain, extreme fatigue, and a weakness that seemed to drain her strength. Between one medical appointment and another, the diagnosis came, and it shattered her. A severe, aggressive autoimmune disease, and according to the doctors, the prognosis was uncertain. On the same day she received that devastating news, she went home looking for comfort in the only place she thought was safe, in Marcelo's arms. But he wasn't there. On the table, a cold and cruel note. The words, short and sharp, felt like daggers piercing her soul. "Helena, I can't carry this burden anymore. I can't stand this life. I'm leaving. Take care of yourself and Sophia. Goodbye." For a few minutes, she simply couldn't process what she was reading. Her body trembled, her vision blurred, the world seemed to collapse. It was as if everything she had built, everything she believed in, had been ripped away without mercy. Marcelo wasn't just abandoning her, he was abandoning her at the most fragile moment of her life. Sick, emotionally destroyed, and with a small child in her arms. Sophia, her 7-year-old daughter, quickly noticed something was wrong. She walked up to her mother, grabbed her hand tightly, and with her innocent eyes full of fear, asked, "Mommy, did Daddy leave?" Helena didn't even have the strength to lie. She just held her tightly with whatever fragility she had left, trying to offer safety even when her own world was falling apart. The nights that followed were long, endless, and painful. Helena cried in secret, far from her daughter's eyes, trying to appear strong during the day while falling apart inside. The disease progressed, the symptoms worsened, and the loneliness made everything seem even crueler. The doctors weren't optimistic. They said she needed urgent treatment, constant care, and most importantly, support. Something she simply didn't have. Bills started piling up. Marcelo had completely vanished. He didn't answer calls, blocked her on everything, even disappeared from social media. He vanished as if he had never existed. Helena, besides dealing with physical and emotional pain, now had to find the strength to keep the house, feed Sophia, and somehow survive. Neighbors started distancing themselves, some out of pity, others because they didn't know how to handle the situation. And Marcelo's family, they made sure to turn their backs, pretending they never knew her. She couldn't understand. How could someone who once promised eternal love, in sickness and in health, simply run away? How could someone who watched his daughter be born abandon her like that, as if discarding something worthless? But no matter how hard life tried to knock her down, there was something inside Helena that refused to die. Maybe it was the love for Sophia, maybe her resilient spirit, or maybe that survival instinct only a mother knows. Between one tear and another, she decided that it wouldn't be there, at rock bottom, where her story would end. With what little energy she had left, she started looking for alternatives. She sold some furniture from the house, received help from an old friend who, despite the distance, showed up in her darkest hour. She held raffles, garage sales, asked for help, and little by little, she managed to raise enough money to start treatment. The process was slow, painful, and full of uncertainties, but Helena clung to every tiny victory like it was gold. Her weakened body reacted poorly to the medication. There were days when she could barely get out of bed, but even so, she dragged herself to the kitchen to prepare Sophia's breakfast and smiled, even though her smile hid a pain that seemed unbearable. Every trip to the hospital, every test, every hospitalization, Helena remembered Marcelo's note and how he had left her at the worst moment of her life. That burned. It wasn't just physical pain, it was the pain of betrayal, of abandonment, of seeing everything she once believed about love shatter. Sophia, despite being so young, became her greatest source of strength. Every time she held her hand and said, "Mommy, I love you," it felt like some of that pain turned into fuel to keep going. Months passed. The fight seemed endless, but little by little, the exams started showing small improvements. The treatment was starting to work, and the disease that once seemed invincible began to back off. Helena knew there was still a long road ahead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. And just as things were beginning to improve, life decided to test her resilience one more time. An unexpected phone call. On the other end, a cold and direct voice. "Helena, we're sorry, but your house is about to be auctioned for non-payment." Marcelo, in addition to abandoning her, had left behind debts she didn't even know existed. The house was under his name, and he had taken out loans using it as collateral, money that obviously had never been used for the family. It was as if every step forward came with an even harder blow. But instead of collapsing like she did in the beginning, Helena took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and told herself, "I didn't come this far to fall again." She ran after lawyers, found ways to try to stop the auction, and in the meantime, started making sweets to sell. The recipes she had learned from her grandmother, once just fond memories, now became her source of income. She spent sleepless nights baking cakes, truffles, and sweets while Sophia slept. Beside her on the living room couch, waiting for her to finish, the same neighbors who once distanced themselves were now enchanted by her strength, and little by little began to support her, buy from her, and spread the word. What started as small orders soon became a wave of support. Helena, who once didn't even know how she would pay for her daughter's milk, now saw her name spreading across the city. Her social media blew up with orders, compliments, and most importantly, stories from people who were inspired by her. Every sweet she delivered carried not just flavor, but a story of resilience, strength, and love for life. The money that came in was carefully divided, part for expenses, part for her treatment, and another part saved with a single goal: to save her house, reclaim her dignity, and prove to the world and to herself that she was far stronger than any abandonment. And it was exactly when things were finally getting back on track that the past came knocking. After more than a year missing, Marcelo reappeared, thin, worn out, as if the weight of his choices had finally started to take its toll. He knocked on the door with the same old speech of regret, saying he had made a mistake, that he missed his family, and that he wanted another chance. Helena listened in silence. Every word he said echoed through memories of sleepless nights, hidden tears, moments she thought she wouldn't live to see her daughter grow up. But unlike the Helena he once knew, this woman was now different, stronger, more self-assured, fully aware of her own worth. She took a deep breath, looked into his eyes, and replied with a firm voice, without trembling, without anger, just with the strength of someone who had risen from her own ashes. "Marcelo, I loved you, I waited for you, I forgave you, not for you, but for myself, because I needed to free myself from everything you did to me. But today, there's no more space for you in my life. While you ran away, I fought. While you gave up, I won. And today, I'm no longer the woman you left behind. I'm so much more, and you are no longer part of this." Marcelo, speechless, tried to insist, tried to argue, but Helena simply closed the door, not just the door to her house, but the door to her life. In the months that followed, Helena managed, with a lot of work, to pay off the debts, stop the auction, and more than that, transform her small business into a renowned bakery in the city. Her sweets crossed neighborhoods, reached events, parties, and even local TV shows. She became an example, a living inspiration that no matter how cruel life can be, there's always a way back. And often, that path is even more beautiful than the one that was destroyed. Sophia grew up beside a mother who taught her, not with words, but with actions, that true strength isn't about never falling. It's about always choosing to get back up. And so, Helena not only reclaimed what was hers, she became so much more than she ever imagined. Because sometimes you need to lose everything to finally find yourself.